This is NBC 10 at issue.
NBC 10 at issue. Decision 2012 finally starts. The Iowa caucuses took place Tuesday night. In 2 days, it's the New Hampshire primary, with Pennsylvania's influence prominent in both. What will Republicans do? Now on NBC 10 at issue. Good afternoon, I'm Steve Highsmith. In 12 days, President Barack Obama will have been on the job for 3 years. The seemingly endless presidential preseason ended this week. The caucus and primary season has begun, with former Pennsylvania U.S. Senator Rick Santorum losing by only 8 votes to Mitt Romney Tuesday night in Iowa. New Hampshire voters weigh in this coming week. One of the leading Tea Party political action committees in the nation, the Independence Hall Tea Party PAC, this past week endorsed not Santorum or Gingrich or Bachmann or Paul or Perry, but Mitt Romney. And with me now are Dawn Adams and Bill Green of the Independence Hall Tea Party PAC, a regional group representing many Tea Party activists in Southeast Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. Thank you both for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Why Mitt Romney then?
Well, we really believe that Mitt Romney is the best position to win the nomination and to go on and defeat Barack Obama in the fall in the general election. We're really looking towards November. We have a 27-member board of delegates, and Mitt Romney won overwhelmingly on that board.
Well, let me ask you why. For example, in polls about the folks who voted in the Iowa caucuses, Republicans, Romney came in fourth among people who identified themselves as Tea Party people. And Newt Gingrich this week described the idea, well, this is a quote, the idea that he, Romney, is electable is just silly. That's Gingrich's words. And a lot of self-described conservatives have been criticizing Romney for years, as you know, over alleged ties to, Ted Kennedy or Romney Care or past pro-choice positions. So how did you come to this conclusion? Was it a compromise solely based on winning?
Not actually, but just to go back a little bit to the Reagan, if you use a Reagan analogy, Gerald Ford said Ronald Reagan couldn't win the general election. So a lot of people say a lot of things in the heat of a campaign, but Mr. Romney has demonstrated leadership in both the private and public sector. He is a family man. He has a lot of great positions on issues. I mean, we can all put these candidates under a microscope.
So, Bill, do you feel that you're compromising, or?
I don't see it as a compromise. I see it as the best solution to where we need to go to get a president that's going to take us to where we need to get in the economy and on the other issues that are important in the day. Romney just has what it takes to get it done. He's got the experience as a governor. He's well-rounded. He's a businessman. And I think a lot of Tea Party people will come around once they see that he's the one that's going to take us to where we need to be.
So do I hear from that someone like Rick Santorum you feel is not as electable?
Well, I mean, remember Rick Santorum and Newt Gingrich. These guys are, believe it or not, establishment in a sense because they're all coming out of Washington, D.C. So we like Romney because he's been somebody who's sort of an outsider from D.C. and been a governor. And it just makes more sense to us that that's where we want to go in the future. So,
Don, what kind of reaction have you gotten from folks within your own Tea Party and other Tea Party people around the country?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of people have used the term rhino, but the Tea Party is not a Republican-based organization. We're an independent organization. We pick candidates based on whether or not we believe that they believe in liberty government like we do, and if they also have a chance of winning. I mean, you can't move the government or change things if you don't actually win elections. And so we've endorsed Democrats in the past, and most recently in the race against Bob Casey in the U.S. Senate race, we've endorsed a Democrat in the primary, Brian Miller.
There are some conservatives who look at Mitt Romney and say that his economic policies concerning the dollar, for example, they think would lead to a weaker dollar. They think that it could lead to domestic inflation and might even include a trade war with China. And those conservatives look at him as more Keynesian and that he doesn't adopt Reaganomics. Do you think that they're just wrong on that?
I think we have to just wait and see. I mean, it's until he gets into office and starts to do things, it's hard to know. I mean, these are all speculations that people are making. His record is fairly conservative. When he ran in 2008, he was considered the more conservative candidate than McCain at the time. So I think a lot of it's just conjecture at the current campaign.
Don, do you think this inability of him, at least outside of New Hampshire, to get to above 25% right now, and to have so much criticism by these other candidates, is it because of his religion?
I think the religious intolerance plays into this, certainly. I mean, he's been attacked viciously for 4 years now, based on that alone. But also, I think it's very evident that Mitt Romney will do better once other candidates drop out. I mean, he's running against 7 other people. That makes the division and the ability to get above 25% all that more difficult. By the way, I said Brian Miller. I meant to say Brian Kelly. We endorsed for the U.S. Senate against Casey in the primary.
And so when you think he's going to do better, do you look at New Hampshire and say, well, he's going to win that? Doesn't really matter what he wins it by? Does he have to get above 40% there to make a difference, or will you see weakness in that and worry about that?
Well, so it's still so early in the campaign at this point. I mean, as long as he comes out of New Hampshire looking strong, you know, one or two, I think is enough to keep going and get, you know, more support as we build. When it's this early, it's just hard to make any judgments like that. And Santorum is surging, but you know, they all surged at one time or another for the last 6 months. This just could be his time. I think at the end of the day, people are going to realize that Mitt Romney has the experience and what we need to get things done.
It seems like each of the candidates has gotten their time in the spotlight, and when the record comes under the microscope, then people tend to shy away from them. And I think that possibly could happen to Rick Santorum. Mitt Romney has stayed fairly consistent throughout the entire primary season. Do
you have any concerns at all or unanswered questions about Mitt Romney that right now you're just taking a chance on? For example, he hasn't released his income taxes, that kind of thing.
I don't have any reservations with him. We've seen him before. We had a chance to see him in 08 run, so there's been a lot more vetting of him for a presidential race than the other people. So I think that's part of why he has a consistent base percentage right now, and I think as things go forward, it's going to flesh itself out, and he'll do better.
So if people like Newt Gingrich really go after him a lot in the next week, up till January 21st in South Carolina, what do you say to those Republicans that really go after Romney in an effort, a way to tear him down?
Well, if Mitt Romney is as strong as we believe he is, he'll be able to overcome the criticism. That's what we think.
And do you think when other people say, well, this Tea Party PAC might have endorsed Romney, but other Tea Party people didn't, what do you say to them, Bill?
Well, they all have the right to their opinion. The Tea Party group is not a monolithic group. We all look at things differently. You know, our goal is to win the White House. That's our primary goal. So we have to look at things that way. And sometimes you do have to make small compromises. But at the end of the day, the president is just one piece of the puzzle. You know, we also look at Congress and Senate and get people in that area as well. So the overall conservative shift is what we're looking at.
We respect our fellow Tea Partiers and their positions on these issues. I think overall we respect all the candidates that are running. They're decent Americans. We just chose one over the others in this nominating process.
Thanks very much, sir. Appreciate it. Bill, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Good luck with you this campaign season.
Thanks so much.
What do others